I don't know if there's a like official opening the meeting that needs to happen, but if it is, I motion to start the meeting or whatever, however that works.
So we have to motion to elect a person to be the chairperson for this.
Yeah.
Oh, Bonnie's not here?
Yeah, so Bonnie's not here, so we need someone to run the meeting and someone to take minutes. Katie, do you have a pressing desire to do either of those or to not do either of those?
I suck at taking minutes, but I'll try.
I'll do it. It's okay.
Okay.
Sure. It's just that there's a lot of stuff happening around me at the same time, so I sometimes get sidetracked. So
yeah,
I'm not.
Someone needs to like do a roll call first.
So
To
first,
do we
formally
ever do a roll
establish
call?
that we have quorum now?
first we have to have a chairperson, and
Yeah.
I'll nominate Liam if someone would like to second that to be the chairperson.
I second Liam as the chairperson.
Okay.
Cool.
And
Do we need a vote or does that count as all in favor? Sure.
I.
Okay. I will pretend I have any idea what I'm doing.
Now you need to
So,
nominate a secretary.
Yeah, so I will nominate Holly to act as secretary for this meeting.
And then someone has to
I
second that.
second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
The bad news bears of meetings.
We're totally on track. Okay.
No, this is how we learn. Everybody learns. You have to do it over and over and repetitively.
Okay. So
that's true. We were.
So I think we have basically done the welcome and introductions. There's people here. We have Leon, Holly, and Katie as the mixed quorum, and then Jamie and Pauline and Adrian are also in attendance. So the bulk of today's meeting is to have a document that we can submit to the city with the proposed categories for the what we will spend the parking fine money on, which hopefully won't take super long. We don't necessarily need to do like the full going through all of the different individual items. We just need to have the categories defined and know how it is going to be submitted to the city. I see a hand from Jamie and from Adrian. Jamie, I saw yours first.
Yeah, this is Jamie. So at our last meeting, we were trying to do this in a much more thorough fashion than it sounds like is actually needed specifically by the instructions we got from Director Mastrobuoni. And I think what we should be looking to do, considering the email that Bonnie sent this morning with feedback from Director Mastrobuoni, that we should just take either like just the category names or at most write a sentence describing what the category means, and either drop internal altogether or make the change that Director Mastrobuoni represented. Did everyone see that email? It's just like 2 lines. I could read it aloud.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did, but I don't remember it. If you have it in front of you.
Yeah, so Bonnie writes to presumably all of us via BCC. Hello all, feedback from Director Mastrobuoni, quote, the categories are fine with me. I think all of them are straightforward with the exception of internal. Is there another way you'd like to phrase that one? Maybe capacity building, since you reference consultants/studies. Let me know what you think, unquote, Bonnie.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so I think that is probably going to be sort of the main one that we'll need to discuss and figure out how we want to address that. Before we get to that, Adrian, what did you have?
We don't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes.
I'll just get close to my computer. sorry for my face taking up your screen. Just co-signed to what Leanne and Jamie had said, given the instructions. And just to reiterate, you know, just from a staff liaison perspective, I think that one sentence thing is good, just sort of as, you know, like a little summary sentence. And as Director Masterboni said, you know, the categories look pretty good from his review. And just to clarify for anybody, these are due to Director Masterboni via me tomorrow, so he can take it through the process as budget director.
Okay. So if there's not anything else before we sort of dive in, my thoughts are to figure out how we're organizing things into 3 or 4 different categories, and then have a sentence or two describing what the category is, and possibly with 1 or 2 very broad examples. So looking at the draft that Bonnie had attached with the agenda, the categories there were access/physical items, grant making, internal programming and events, publicity, and training. And my thoughts are we could probably sort of lump internal publicity and training into one category, that might make it a little bit easier to sort of give examples for that. And then I think grant making is fairly good, and programming events is fairly self-explanatory. And then I want to come back to exactly how we're phrasing the accessless physical items, because I still find that slightly confusing, but I think as a category, it sort of stands. Thoughts on that? I see Jamie.
Yeah, I don't think we should be including examples. I think figuring out what those should be in this meeting and writing it up is going to be more work than we have resources, and we should just describe what we want in a sentence, if even that. Like, I would be comfortable, like, you know, I'm not a voting member, but I would be comfortable sending just the headings, basically, even. But a sentence is reasonable, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, and to clarify somewhat what I was thinking, I often find that the easiest way for me to describe something is to give an example. If we can find a concise way to phrase the description without giving a specific example, I think that's great. And I applaud your wordsmithing abilities, because often I find that harder, and so I just give examples. But yeah, I definitely don't think a bulleted list like we have in the document now. Are there any thoughts about that grouping of the categories?
I'm going to pull up the document.
And I am.
This is
trying-
Pauline. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
What was the first category that you mentioned?
Trying to remember what order I actually said things. I think the first one I said was lumping internal publicity and training.
Okay, there was something about accessibility.
And then the category that is the like physical items category that we had originally called access. So things like books or equipment for libraries, playground equipment, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a good category and needs a different name and description. So we should definitely address that. And Also, do we think grant making and programming and events are separate categories, or do we think those would fit together in one?
Can I ask, can I make a statement?
Yes.
Thank you. I wrote this wonderful document of 3 categories, and they were about goals. So each one was a goal, and then certain things went under multiple categories, and they were extremely simplified, and they allowed everything that was in here that is literally specific to have a place to live. And I can't find my piece of paper.
Of course.
But I think what I'm trying to share is I think that if we were to just verify that having 1 or 3 or whatever, however many categories we have, we can go as granular as it is, or we can summarize it more, but it's not going to change the fact that if there's something outside of this list, we would just have to justify it, but it doesn't have to be written on this list for it to be something we can use.
Mhm.
Does anyone not agree with that statement?
I slightly lost track of where the sentence is going, but I think I agree with that.
So if we left this the way it is, got rid of the Ys, and we relabeled internal to something else, I think that adding the terms underneath, say, access, we could say examples include the following. That way, we're giving examples and we're not limiting what's part of that category.
Yeah.
If we added that under each section and just labeled internal, then we've completed the assignment and we still have the flexibility to manage this process. I don't think we're ever going to agree on some of the wording. And I think what's there is great. I think it's more of like having it documented and leaving the door open for other specifics.
Yeah. I think the idea, if I'm remembering correctly from the last meeting, which I might not be, is that we didn't want the specific examples in what we're sending to the city, just because we don't want to end up locked into that. So if we can have a broader, more vague description rather than the examples, that would be better. But I guess the next question is, can we actually come up with that? As far as how to do the meeting, the best idea I have right now is for me or someone else to open up a document and share screen and try to just write something out where we can,
Would it
all
be
have it
okay-
as we go.
Would it be
Is
okay
that-
if I shared that document and showed you my simple example?
Absolutely. I thought you said you couldn't find it, which is why I didn't ask you to share
Oh,
it.
no, what I couldn't find is the wonderful document that I wrote, not the great document that we already had. So, hey, Colin. Let's
Hey,
see.
folks.
Oh, hello, Colin.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Tired. It's been a long day, and I'm not sure if I can stay for all of this, but I felt I would pop in and see if any way it's helpful.
I'm just looking for that document so I can open it up and then someone can tell me how to share it. Any idea?
Go to share
Adrian?
screen at the bottom. It's
Yeah.
a green button.
I'm just first trying to find the document. that
It's
she
in
sent.
the email that Bonnie sent.
Is this the one that Adrian just had up or a different one?
The one that Adrian is showing.
I'm not showing anything right now.
It was me.
I
Oh.
don't
The
see
one
it.
that you're showing. Would you,
I
I don't think I am.
just assumed it was you because I didn't realize that the rest of us were able to share screen.
Yeah, hold on. I'll do it right now.
Oh, yeah, that button is totally there.
can you send me that document though?
Can you see what I'm doing right now?
I do not see
Okay,
the shared screen.
That's fine. I just wanted to, I didn't think you could. That's why I was just so, whoa, this is really, like I said, kind of bad news bears.
Someone just made me the co-host. Is that you,
Well, there
Adrian?
you go.
Sometimes it helps depending.
Oh.
Zoom, I feel like changes their security on meetings on the minute to make people co-host so they can share
Oh,
their
yeah.
screen more readily. So I just did that with you and Katie, and I'll do it with anybody else who needs it, but that should hopefully help.
Katie, can you just email me the document and then I'll type on
Yeah.
it? And then I won't have to dictate and then we can all say,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Lean, what do you think we should rename that other category?
Which other category? The, like the physical items one, or?
The one that Bonnie shared that needed to be sort of labeled different.
The,
Internal, was that the one?
Yeah.
so the names I have in my head right now, if I'm remembering anything from the like student group budgeting stuff I did in college, is I think capital is the word for like the physical items, and then I have programming and grants, and then operational is, I think, the like the doing things part of it. If there's anyone here who has done budgety things more recently than I, who can either confirm or deny that those are terms that exist.
Yeah. I would say for what they put in here, I think that, like, I think capital would actually, I think, maybe raise some eyebrows, because I think in a municipal context, that mostly means like infrastructure. In a way that like buildings usually, in a way that we don't mean. I know that the label of capacity building was suggested, which is that close enough that we could, or it could be capacity building / administrative or something like that.
I worry slightly that administrative might, that sounds like something that would raise eyebrows to me, but I also am not
No, it
part of the
could.
administration. Is operational a word that means specific things, or?
Yeah, I think operational or operations is probably like sufficiently generic to be just like, we would be using this in the course of our day-to-day business. Like,
Yeah, so why don't we have like operational and capacity building
yeah.
and programming and grants, and then is this, what do we call stuff?
Honestly, that's one that could be labeled infrastructure or something like that without raising too many issues. Because that's all like objects that we would purchase, right?
Yeah, so the category that's like, yeah, the examples we had were like books or equipment for libraries, accessible playground equipment.
Yeah, we could call it infrastructure, we call it accessibility tools. Like,
yeah, so the description that I just came up with right this moment, that I haven't shared because I haven't figured out how to do that yet, is physical items intended to increase access, opportunities, or representation for disabled people, which I don't know if we want to give a couple, like, a couple examples of that,
right.
or if that is a sufficient description to get through. Thoughts on that? I see Jamie's hand.
This is Jamie. I think that sentence, the description you just said is great. And I think a good label for that is equipment.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect.
And can you paste that thing that you said in the chat?
Let me, yeah, I will paste that in the chat and also see if I can, do you want me to try to share my screen, the document that I am just drafting this in? Let me see if that does the right thing. Do people have a Google Doc showing now?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Excuse me, could somebody put up on the screen what you've got, because I'm getting lost.
So right now, what I have up is just a Google Doc that has that sentence that I just read, the equipment title with physical items intended to increase access, opportunities, or representation for disabled people. And then I have headings for programming and grants and for operational and capacity building that I have not yet written anything in. So for Pauline, did that cover what you were asking?
I think so. When you have, some of these, make sure you tell me what you're doing and reading it off to me, because I am totally confused if I don't have the information.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't specify that I didn't have anything written on it other than what I had said, but I have been reading out everything that is written down here. I just want to also have it up to help keep it a little bit straighter when I inevitably forget what I've said already. Okay. So are we good to move on to programming and grants? Okay. It seems like that is a yes. So this category would cover things like scholarships for students, the business modifications via nonprofits such as East Somerville Main Streets, the art and culture, like things for sign language interpreters for performances, and probably things like ASL classes or disability focused art series would fall under that as well.
And also under performances, audio description.
Yes. Yeah, which is not on that original document, but should be. I don't think I can actually edit that. But I will make a note to ask Bonnie to add that in.
And we just need to make sure we all are clear that every single possible thing that we might want to do does not need to be listed. We just need
Yes.
a summary.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that
agree,
is the
Pauline, we need that, but if we keep adding to this list, we're never going to have one, and we're going to miss our deadline, and we're not going to have anything. So,
yes. Yeah, this meeting isn't the go through the whole list and figure out what things we will or won't do, meaning it's the get a thing that we can submit to the city.
Is there
So
a starting point of a sentence that we could edit?
yes, please. I was about to ask for that.
Sure. So I'm also pasting these in the chat, but here's a starting point sentence. Funding for community organizations to enable them to provide better accommodations.
I think that is part of it. Let me copy that in. But then how do I get back to where's the chat? I'm gonna just write that because I can't find the chat.
That is okay. Yeah, I was thinking about, okay, how do I write a sentence describing grants, and then programming got merged into it. So that sentence doesn't really cover that side of things, but I figured we need to start somewhere.
Yeah, so that is definitely part of it. That doesn't cover the things like scholarships or specific programming and events. So we should find ways to add that in. Yes.
I think you could add like as well as funds to support disabled young people in Somerville. Something like that. I don't think we'll have a problem with that.
Um, or programs targeted or what's the word for, or promoting? Or that is not at all a sentence, but I think that covers the main categories of. So currently it says funds for community organizations to provide better access, run events or programs targeted at or promoting disabled people or disabled young people. That needs a verb in there somewhere. And but aside from turning that into actual sentence structure, does that cover all of the points that we were trying to cover?
I think it's a little redundant with disabled people or disabled young people without any kind of like
Oh.
distinction. But yes, it does cover everything
Yeah,
that we're talking
that
about
was
here, I think.
there needs to be verbs in the part about having something that covers scholarships that I just
Yeah.
hadn't gotten
Or
that far yet.
providing support to disabled young people.
Yeah. Okay, so turning that into an actual sentence.
I mean, it's as much as a sentence as the previous one.
I guess an actual coherent. So
I would say just some small word nitpicks. Instead of run events, hold events, and instead of targeted at, targeted for.
yeah, so I'm going to start a second one to not be trying to copy and paste things. So funding for events or programming centered around disability. Does that sound like a good wording?
Put it down for now. We can ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good enough.
This at community events or okay, so the current wording I have is funding for events or programming centered around disability to increase access to community events or to provide support for disabled young people. Should I say events and programming twice? Because redundancy is better than leaving things out in this kind of legalese.
I don't know that it changes anything really.
I don't either, but I'm gonna put it in because completionism or something.
Yeah, this really doesn't have to be perfect, right? We're just trying to give them a general idea, right? This isn't a case where, like, if we don't perfectly encapsulate everything we might ever want to do, it's going to cause a problem. We just don't want, we want to give them a solid idea so that nothing we do with the money will seem wildly out of step.
Oh, I guess the way we have it worded now does not allow for things like business modifications through East Somerville Main Streets. Do we want to?
I think that increases access for community programming.
Yeah,
I think that's
I could
probably good enough.
also, we could just change it to increase community access.
Yeah.
And that covers all of it without even having to use the same words. Okay, so funding for events or programming centered around disability to increase community access or to provide support for disabled young people. Any questions or comments on that before we move on to the next category? Seeing none, let us move on to currently labeled as operational and capacity building. So this would be things like what we had under internal, the staff support, printing, studies on community needs, consultants, increased parking enforcement through hiring more parking officers. I would probably also encompass publicity. So publication, yard sign, press release, public service announcements, better web presence, and yeah, guides for accessible city resources, and would also encompass training. So we could funding for operational needs such as publicity. I don't know how to say it without just sort of restating the category name, which might be fine.
Fine, that's okay.
But so I will draft a thing unless somebody else has a suggestion they want to throw out.
Put it out there and then we'll tear it apart.
Okay.
Meaning we'll edit it. We'll thoughtfully
Yeah.
we'll thoughtfully edit.
Yes. I'm sure it will need to be torn apart because I'm trying to write a thing at the same time as I'm in a meeting. And it turns out it's hard to write things in front of people. So funding to increase the effectiveness of the mission's work increased
through education, something.
Okay, so my spew of consciousness, I have funding to increase the effectiveness of the commission's work through trainings, publicity, education, or other means. Commence the tearing apart. Are we worried about having or other means in there, or do we think that's fine?
I still think we need somewhere in each group to say examples include, just so that we have permission to be vague. And we're not limiting ourselves if it's not written there. That's my only comment.
Examples almost risks limiting us more.
Yeah, that's
Examples include isn't limiting us.
I think it's
Including
both
but
is
not
and
limited
isn't.
to.
Yeah,
Including but
like
not
it's
limited
it's saying it's not limiting it, but it's also in people's heads making it sound like these are the things. Whereas if there just is a description and not examples at all, then if we can justify it as falling into that category, then there's not but it doesn't sound like the examples. So I think if we think the descriptions are comprehensive enough to that all of the things we have been thinking about could be justified as falling under them, then I think being more vague is going to be better.
Well, I
But-
like what Katie said, if we were to say including but not limited to, which is a legal statement and it's many times read in a contract. And it's Katie,
Kind of puts things in context, I think. It kind of gives people the idea and gets to like, what the hell are they talking about? Oh, you mean this? And then
Yep.
you can say, and then when you're making a distinction, they're like this. Well, like, well, that's nothing like this. Or, or they can say, that's like this other thing. That's like this other thing in this way. You know, I don't know. It kind of puts it.
Right. I think that's a good phrase. Such as also works, right? But yeah, I think, but including but not limited to puts it explicitly.
Yep.
And there's no reason, we don't have to write millions of them. We have several suggestions already. So just pick our favorite ones, maybe the highlights, so just to give them some context. Because we know what, I mean, after we've been talking about this, we know what we're talking about, but.
Yeah, I guess, do we have,
Adrian, do we have any like examples of similar thing for other funds?
I don't, unfortunately. Do you mean specifically for this particular category or the whole thing?
Just for what kind of a thing we are trying to write here.
So
Mhm.
again, Director Mastroboni was fine, except for that recommendation on changing the category name for internal. What the draft that Bonnie sent him, he was completely fine with, which means that minus, these sentences that you all want to include, I think you're on the right track. So
Mhm.
that's what I can offer you.
Yeah, let's not overcomplicate it. If it's basically fine, with these small changes, let's just make them and send it off.
And as a chronic overthinker, I understand what is happening here and I get it. I always overthink, but with this, and I have to say this to myself every day just in my life, simple is better here for a lot of reasons.
yeah, I think that if we try to exclude examples, we're going to end up spending several hours trying to agree on what examples we're including. And I personally would love to avoid that conversation and be able to just have the conversation at the next full meeting of actually figuring out what we want to spend it on rather than having to have that twice. So Adrian, the draft that Bonnie sent that Director Mastroboni was commenting on, do you know what that was?
That was the document, I think you shared it or somebody shared it, but the PDF.
Kate
that
did.
Kate did, yeah. So what Kate just shared is what he saw.
Okay, so it was the one with the bullet points rather than just the category headings.
The feedback that we got specifically said the categories are fine with me.
Yeah. Because again, your categories, and you all fleshed it out beautifully. I don't want to discount the work that you all did because I think it's important. But again, this document is looking for categories. And I do like the idea of just having an introductory sentence. But again, I think that's the focus here. So this can be submitted tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the work we've done of figuring out the specific ideas is really important for the actually doing it. I don't think it's important for the submitting this document to the city. Holly, Katie,
I think we're almost done.
or
Yeah,
does that sound
that sounds
okay?
perfect.
Okay. Are there any more thoughts on the document itself, the wordings we have? Pauline, would you like me to read out the final what we have written at this point?
Yes, and when you read it slowly, please, because some of your words aren't clear.
My apologies. Okay, so currently we have equipment physical items intended to increase access, opportunities, or representation for disabled people. We have programming and grants, funding for events or programming centered around disability to increase community access or to provide support for disabled young people. And we have operational and capacity building, funding to increase the effectiveness of the commission's work through trainings, publicity, education, or other means.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Excellent. I'm glad you think so.
That's good.
Okay. So if there are no other comments on the document itself, then I think we just need to sort out how this is getting submitted to the city. Adrian, can you refresh us on the process for that?
This is to be sent to Director Mastroboni. I think given the fact that he's clarified some things for Chair Dennis, he's, fine with her sending that, with me, copied, just so the staff liaison is copied, just for record keeping sake. If she has time to look it over. I did say Friday tomorrow. He did say Friday tomorrow, the 27th. I would recommend sooner rather than later, because it's just, particularly for his role, busy time of year. And from what I understand, it goes in, thanks, Colin. What I understand, it goes in this big sort of document book with everything for the fiscal 23-year budget, and then all of the revolving funds have sort of similar pages to this for review by the city council. So that's what I was told.
Okay.
What else is in front of us, though? There were talks about MOUs. There were talks about, we still don't have any reporting of where these funds are coming from. There's no accounting for us.
So there's a fund, and right now it's at 75K.
Yes, but we've asked for what that came from, the date, the month. There's no details. It's not that I'm questioning what's there. We've asked multiple times to see the accounting, the data that represents that. My concern is every
Well,
time we move forward, there's something we get told again is a deadline, or that we're going to lose something. Once this is done today, what is the next step that we have to do?
so I have to get feedback, because I don't know what the next step for the commission is. All I know is that
Then who can the commission speak to understand that? I mean, you're a piece of our commission and you represent an important piece, but the commission itself should have clarity and documentation of what we're supposed to do. Like, that's, you're here to make sure that we're in compliance with ADA, but this is a city process that I feel we don't understand clearly.
So there will be training from the procurement department, to understand in terms of the scope of the project. So what this is doing is giving the ability for city council to authorize this use of this fund for you.
That already happened.
So they have to reauthorize it every year, which this commission has been told. So
when was it authorized? 21? I believe it was 21. And we haven't seen a dime from that year. Where is that money?
I think if I understand correctly, the fund has been set aside for us, and what we're doing now is the process for how we actually use it is they're not just giving us a bank account to spend however we want. It's like the city still has the account, but we are able to request them to spend it on things. And this document is the how they can, yeah, have the person that is in charge of that on the immediate level be able to approve the spending without having to go in front of whatever higher up every single time. I
So what
think
I'm-
that's how it works.
Yeah, but see, that's what my question is about, because we all think that's what it is, but I'm reiterating the fact that we should have something in writing of how this process works, so we both understand it.
Mhm.
And that includes the report of when the fines were collected, the process that we're supposed to follow, all the due dates to be able to access our funds. There was a talk of needing an MOU. Is that still the case? And if it says that these funds will be approved, the categories, but it's also approving a maximum dollar amount that hasn't been discussed with us. And if we do not provide this by a budget deadline, we will lose the allocated funds, which are over $50,000. And this order was approved, I believe it was actually last September. And these are my concerns. And if Mike Mastroboni is the person who knows this, then we deserve to have one document or one conversation with the commission that says this is how the process works. And that's not Adrian's job to do that, but Adrian is become our researcher and working to resolve these issues, but I don't feel that we have what we need to understand the rules. So I don't want to hold this up anymore. I think what you wrote is fantastic. I want to know that that who is in charge of sending it and who's going to document what the next steps are. It's not, I mean, this is a lot of money. And it was a lot of
And
work
who's-
to get to this point.
When is the actual deadline that this needs to be submitted?
This is Leon. I'm gonna jump in and just respond to something from a while back. Adrian, you had suggested that Bonnie send it. I think that Bonnie has said that she does not have the capacity right now to be the one sending it in. So one of the people here today should take charge of that. I'm happy to be that person if nobody else has a pressing desire to. I just need to know, where I'm sending it. Am I copying everybody? And am I just sending this document, or is there some specific formatting that it needs to fall under for the specific purpose we're submitting it for?
So I'm happy to email or drop in the chat Director Mastroboni's email because he is expecting it. I will leave it up to this body if they all would like to be, blind copied or copied on that email, and Leon can certainly send it if that's, what the wish of this commission is. And then, we'll go from there.
Okay. Before that, I just want to, I just as we were talking, added a intro line of the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities intends to use the funds collected from accessible parking violations for the following uses. Just so it's not a random document with no context. Are there any thoughts on that, or are we all good to include that line?
I think that's great, Leon.
Me too.
Okay. And are there any objections to me being the one to email this in?
No, in fact, we could make it form.
Okay, yeah.
Formal.
I was just gonna ask if we needed to, so sure, let's go ahead.
I make a motion that that Liam submit submit this list to Director Mastroboni.
I
And
don't,
include the commission on the note.
Include the commission on the note.
okay,
I second that motion.
excellent. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Have
Excellent.
we voted that this is the final document?
Um,
I think you just did that.
No, we
Yeah.
said that we could submit it. I'm not sure if we voted that that was the document that we would.
we can do that right now if we just want to be official about it. I guess I should probably like add a date or something, but I think that's the only like last little change I might need to make.
So is this the complete document now, Leanne, or are you going to add the other parts into it?
I believe unless there is any other formatting formality that needs to happen, this is the complete document that I am intending to.
So all the other pieces that he said were okay are not going in this, we're giving him this instead?
Yes, because for this part, they don't need the specifics, they just need the categories.
Okay. Thank you
So-
for the clarity.
Yeah, and then the larger, more fleshed out document of the actual things are for us internally to have a plan for what we're actually going to do, but they don't need that for the being able to approve it as long as they fall into these categories. Okay. Do we want to have a vote on this as the final document?
I'll put a motion forward, 7:28 PM, to vote as a commission in acceptance of the document that Liam is displaying as our categories being submitted to the city.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Excellent. I think we might actually have accomplished all of the things we came here to accomplish. Is there anything else we need to address, or do we want to just cheer and end the meeting half an hour early?
I think you did a great job, Liam. Thank
Okay.
you,
Yep. I do too.
Chairperson.
Thank you, everyone, for being able to meet on short notice and for a productive meeting where we did the thing that we came to do. And I motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Okay.
All right.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye. Yay. Okay.
Have a good one,
Meeting is
everybody. See
officially
you at the
adjourned.
next regular meeting.
Thank you so much, everyone, and have an excellent rest of your evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.